I never thought something as simple as a phone app could ruin lives. It all started one boring Saturday afternoon when my friend Kevin and I were hanging out at my place. Kevin was always into weird apps and trying out the latest tech trends. That day, he told me he'd found this strange new app, something called Phantom. He said it was a mystery app, something that wasn't available on the App Store but only through private links. He grinned like a kid with a secret. Want to check it out? At first, I laughed it off. I mean, how dangerous could an app be? But something about Kevin's excitement made me curious, so I agreed. He opened the app, and that's when things started to feel off. The screen went dark and weird symbols started flashing. I thought it was some kind of prank, but Kevin looked serious. "This app, it's not like anything you've ever seen before," Kevin said, his voice lower than usual. "People say it can show you things that no one should see." At that moment, I wish I'd told him to stop, but instead I just sat there, letting him dive deeper into whatever this Phantom app was. The app started to act weird, almost as if it was glitching out. I noticed the room felt colder and there was a strange static sound coming from Kevin's phone. We both exchanged uneasy glances. "Kevin, maybe you should delete this thing. It's probably just a scam," I suggested. But he was hooked, scrolling through the creepy interface. The app started asking personal questions like where we lived, our birth dates, and even asked to access our camera. Kevin, being the tech geek he was, allowed it without hesitation. That's when the first creepy thing happened. The phone's camera suddenly turned on and pointed right at me. A chill ran down my spine. "Is this some kind of joke, Kevin?" I asked, but he looked just as freaked out. "No, man, I swear I didn't do that." Before we could process what was going on, the app made a sound, like a faint whisper coming from the phone. "One of you will vanish soon." Kevin and I stared at each other, eyes wide with disbelief. The whispering voice from the app sounded distorted, like it wasn't human. It sent chills crawling up my arms. I grabbed Kevin's phone and stared at the screen, hoping it was some weird glitch or a prank. I think we should stop," I stammered, my voice shaky. Kevin, still curious despite the fear in his eyes, snatched his phone back. "Come on, it's probably just some random audio file. These apps are designed to mess with people's heads." But I wasn't convinced. The room felt different, like something invisible had shifted. The air was heavy, and every little sound seemed amplified. The ticking of the clock, the rustling of the curtains. Before I could argue, the app spoke again, only this time it was clearer. "Someone close to you will disappear." I froze. The words hung in the air like a curse. Kevin chuckled nervously, but I could tell he was just as freaked out. "It's just an app. It can't actually do anything." "I don't know, man," I replied, backing away. "What if this isn't a joke?" After that, I refused to mess with the app anymore. I told Kevin he was crazy for even downloading it. But Kevin, being Kevin, brushed it off and kept playing around with the features. "Watch," he said, tapping on the app again. "It's probably just some kind of creepy interactive game. Look, it's tracking where we are now." He pointed to the map on the screen. A red dot appeared right at our location. My heart skipped a beat. "Why is it tracking us?" I asked, my voice rising with panic. Kevin shrugged, still trying to act like it was no big deal. "It's probably just using the GPS. Chill, it's not like it knows what we're doing." But the app did seem to know. As we sat in silence, a message popped up. "I'm watching you." I stood up from the couch, my body tense. I had enough of this weird game. "I'm done. Delete that thing, Kevin." Kevin finally looked uneasy. He tried to exit the app, but the screen wouldn't respond. His fingers swiped furiously, but the app stayed open, the creepy symbols flashing in the background. "I can't. It won't let me close it," he whispered, his face pale. I felt like we weren't alone anymore. I could sense something watching us, something dark. My hands were trembling as I reached for my phone to call someone, anyone, but before I could dial, Kevin's phone screen went black. Then the lights flickered. Suddenly, the room plunged into complete darkness. The only light came from the faint glow of Kevin's phone, now lying on the floor. I fumbled for the light switch, my heart racing, but nothing worked. "Kevin?" I called out, my voice shaky. There was no answer. I spun around, trying to feel my way through the darkness, but the air felt thick, like I was walking through fog. I called his name again, louder this time. Nothing. Then the whispering started again. It wasn't coming from Kevin's phone, it was all around me, like the walls themselves were speaking. He's gone. My breath caught in my throat. I reached for Kevin, but all I felt was cold air. He wasn't there. I frantically searched the room, my hands reaching out, hoping to grab hold of him. But Kevin was gone. It was like he had vanished into thin air. The fear that gripped me was unlike anything I'd ever felt before. My best friend had just disappeared right in front of me, and there was nothing I could do. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, frantically searching every corner of the room. My heart was pounding in my chest so hard I thought it would burst. Kevin was nowhere to be found. I started to panic, my thoughts racing. How could someone just vanish like that? I rushed to the front door, yanking it open, hoping he'd somehow slipped outside. But the street was eerily quiet. No Kevin, no signs of anyone. I ran back inside and checked every room, calling his name over and over. "Kevin, where are you?" My voice cracked, my throat dry. No answer. I sank to the floor, my mind spinning. I grabbed Kevin's phone, hoping there'd be some kind of clue. But the app was still there, open and mocking me with its silence. The screen glowed faintly in the darkness, and a new message popped up. "You're next." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I dropped Kevin's phone, my hands shaking uncontrollably. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. My heart raced as I scrambled to think of what to do next. Should I call the police? But what would I tell them? That an app made my friend disappear? I stared at my own phone, feeling desperate. I opened the App Store, searching for anything related to Phantom, but there was nothing. No trace of it anywhere. It was like the app didn't exist. I tried to calm myself down, breathing heavily as I paced around the room. Maybe Kevin was just playing a twisted prank. Maybe he'd jump out from behind a door and laugh at how freaked out I was. But deep down, I knew this was no prank. I picked up Kevin's phone again, my fingers trembling as I tried to delete the app. But it was useless. Every time I tried, the screen would flicker, and the app would stay. It was like it had rooted itself into the phone, refusing to leave. I felt a cold sweat break out on my skin. My gut told me that this wasn't over. Whatever had taken Kevin was coming for me next. That night I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. The creak of the floorboards, the wind brushing against the window, it all felt too loud, too close. I kept thinking about Kevin, wondering where he was or if he was even alive. My mind raced with terrifying possibilities. Was he trapped somewhere? Or worse, was he gone for good? I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for something, anything to happen. My phone sat on the nightstand next to me, the screen dark but threatening, as if the app was waiting for its next move. I felt like I was being watched. When I finally drifted off, I was plagued by nightmares. I saw Kevin's face, pale and lifeless, staring at me from the other side of a glass wall. He was trying to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to reach him, but no matter how hard I pounded on the glass, he just slipped further away, his body fading into the darkness. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding. My hands were trembling and my eyes darted around the room, but everything was still. It was just a dream, I told myself. But it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like a warning. The next day, I decided to report Kevin missing. I went to the police, but I couldn't exactly tell them the whole truth. I couldn't explain that my friend had vanished because of a cursed iPhone app. No one would believe me. So I told them Kevin had come over, and when I went to get something from another room, he was gone. It wasn't a total lie, but it felt like I was leaving out the most important part. The officer behind the desk didn't seem too concerned. He took down Kevin's information and assured me they'd look into it, but I could tell he thought Kevin had just taken off. "Give it 24 hours, he said, tapping the paper with his pen. "Most people turn up." But I knew Kevin. He wouldn't just disappear without saying anything. And I knew it had something to do with that app. As I walked out of the station, a horrible feeling settled in my chest. I was on my own. No one was going to help me find Kevin. Not the police, not anyone. The only way I was going to figure this out was if I did it myself. When I got back home, I hesitated before picking up Kevin's phone again. I didn't want to look at that app anymore. It felt wrong, like something evil was lurking inside it. But I had to know more. Maybe if I understood it, I could figure out how to get Kevin back. I tapped the app icon, half expecting my own phone to glitch out like Kevin's had. But this time it opened smoothly. The creepy symbols were still there, swirling slowly on the screen like they were alive. A message appeared. The game has begun. Game? What game? I stared at the screen, my mind racing. If this was some kind of sick game, then how did I play? And what were the rules? Suddenly my phone buzzed. I almost dropped it from the shock. It was a text message from an unknown number. Keep playing or you'll never see him again. My hands were shaking as I read the message. Whoever, or whatever, was behind this app was toying with me. But what choice did I have? If there was even a small chance I could get Kevin back, I had to keep going. I stared at the app, unsure what to do next. Then, as if reading my mind, a new option popped up on the screen. Unlock the next level? I hesitated, every instinct screaming at me to stop, to delete the app and forget about it. But I couldn't. I had to know what had happened to Kevin. I tapped the option. The screen went black for a moment, and then the app showed a grainy video. My stomach dropped when I saw what was on it. It was Kevin. He was sitting in a dark room, his hands bound and his eyes wide with fear. He was trying to speak, but no sound came out. "Kevin!" I shouted at the screen, but it was useless. It was just a video. A voice whispered from the phone, "Save him or he's gone forever." After the video ended, the app gave me new instructions. I had to complete a series of tasks to save Kevin. Each task was more disturbing than the last. The first one was to send the app to 5 other people. It was trying to spread like a virus, pulling others into its twisted game. I refused. There was no way I was dragging anyone else into this nightmare. But then my phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Fail, and he's lost forever. I was trapped. If I didn't do what the app wanted, Kevin would disappear for good. But if I did, I'd be putting more people in danger. My mind was spinning, trying to figure out a way out of this mess. Finally, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let this app control me. I wasn't going to play by its rules. Instead, I'd find a way to break them. I started by doing research. I scoured the internet for anything related to the Phantom app, but there was nothing. No forums, no articles, no warnings. It was like the app didn't exist. But I knew it was real. I'd seen it with my own eyes. That's when I got the idea to search the deep web. It was a long shot, but I figured if this app was hidden from the general public, maybe someone out there had encountered it before. After hours of searching, I finally found a thread, buried deep in a dark corner of the internet, talking about an app that disappears people. One user wrote, "If you get the Phantom app, don't play. Once you start, there's no way out." Another comment, "The app chooses you. You can't delete it. The only way to escape is to pass it on." That's when it hit me. Kevin hadn't found the app. The app had found him, and now it had found me. The information I'd found left me shaken. The app wasn't just some twisted game. It was a trap, and the only way out was to spread it. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't just let this curse fall on someone else, knowing they'd go through the same nightmare I was living. I sat there, staring at the glowing screen of Kevin's phone, feeling trapped. The app wanted me to send it to 5 people to pass the curse along. But that wasn't an option. I had to figure out another way. I tried everything I could think of. Resetting the phone, uninstalling the app, even factory resetting the entire device. But every time the phone restarted, the app was still there, its creepy symbols swirling on the screen like it was taunting me. That's when I realized something horrifying. The app wasn't just on Kevin's phone. It had somehow made its way to mine. The icon appeared on my home screen, sitting there like a ticking time bomb. I spent the next few days trying to ignore the app, hoping that maybe, if I didn't engage with it, it would just disappear. But the app had other plans. It wasn't done with me. One night I was home alone, trying to distract myself by watching TV, but I couldn't focus. The app kept creeping into my mind like it was pulling me back, drawing me closer to the phone. I checked the time. It was almost midnight. I figured I'd just go to bed and deal with it tomorrow. But as I turned off the lights and headed toward my room, I heard something, a soft knock at the front door. My heart raced. Who would be here this late? I glanced through the peephole but saw nothing. The street was empty. For a moment I thought it was just my imagination, the paranoia getting the best of me. Then the knocking came again, louder this time, more insistent. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely steady. No answer. The silence was suffocating. I slowly opened the door, my hand shaking on the knob. But when I swung it open, there was no one there. A chill ran down my spine. I stepped outside, looking up and down the street, but it was completely deserted. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something on the doorstep. It was a piece of paper, folded neatly, with my name written on it. I unfolded the note with trembling hands. The message was short, but it was enough to make my blood run cold. "You can't escape. Finish the game or lose everything." I dropped the note like it was on fire, backing away from the door. This wasn't just a prank anymore. Someone or something was watching me. They knew where I lived. They knew my name. I rushed back inside, locking the door behind me, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. I grabbed my phone, and sure enough, the app had another message waiting for me. "Next task, accept your guest." My stomach twisted in knots. Accept my guest? I didn't want to know what that meant. But it didn't take long to find out. As I sat there, staring at my phone, trying to make sense of the message, I heard the knocking again. Only this time it wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from inside the house. My heart nearly stopped. I stood up, my legs shaking, and slowly turned toward the hallway. The house was dark, the shadows long and twisted, but I could hear it. Soft, rhythmic knocking like someone tapping on a wall or a door. It was coming from the back of the house. Every instinct in me screamed to run, but I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, my mind racing with fear. Who or what was in my house? I forced myself to take a step forward, then another, until I was standing just outside the door to my bedroom. The knocking had stopped. The silence was deafening. I slowly pushed open the door, holding my breath, my heart racing. The room was empty. But then I saw it, written on the mirror in what looked like red ink. "Play the game." I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. This was real. Something was in my house, something that wanted me to finish this sick game. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and called the police, my fingers shaking as I dialed. When the operator answered, I tried to explain what was happening, but the words came out in a panicked rush. "There's someone in my house," I gasped. "I don't know how, but they've been sending me messages and—" "Calm down, sir. What's your address?" the operator asked. But before I could respond, my phone cut out. The screen flickered and the app opened on its own. No help, no escape. I tried to call again, but the phone wouldn't let me. It was like the app had taken over, controlling everything. The fear was overwhelming. I was trapped, and I had no one to turn to. I threw the phone across the room in frustration, but the app was still there, glowing ominously in the darkness. The knocking started again, louder this time, echoing through the house. It was coming from the hallway, moving closer, like whoever or whatever was in the house was making its way toward me. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy lamp, and held it up defensively, my heart racing. The knocking grew louder, more persistent, and I could hear footsteps now, slow and deliberate. I backed up against the wall, my breathing shallow, my mind racing. I had to get out. I couldn't stay here. But just as I was about to make a break for the door, the knocking stopped. The house was deathly silent again, the kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. I stood there, holding my breath, waiting for whatever was coming next. But nothing happened. For a moment, I thought it was over. Maybe it had left. Then, from behind me, a whisper, "Time's up." I spun around, but there was no one there. Just the empty room, filled with shadows. My phone buzzed on the floor, and I slowly walked over to pick it up. The screen flickered as the app displayed its final message. "You failed." Before I could react, everything went dark. The room, the phone, even the sound around me, it all disappeared in an instant. I felt like I was floating, weightless, in a void of nothingness. And then I heard it. Kevin's voice. Faint, distant, but unmistakable. "I warned you," he said, his voice echoing in the darkness. "I told you not to play the game." I tried to call out to him, but my voice was gone. I was trapped, just like he had been, and I realized with a sinking dread that I had become the app's next victim.